So my name is Jay Metz. I am the chair of SNIA, and I'd like to thank you for joining us this year at our SNIA Developer Conference. Out of curiosity, how many people, this is your first time at the Developer Conference? Excellent. Wow, nice. Nice. Bill, you don't count. Excellent. Okay, so out of curiosity, another curiosity, how many people are not familiar with SNIA, don't belong to SNIA? All right, so everybody here is a SNIA member. Excellent. So, obviously, we do hope to find more hands going up next year. We want to make sure that we have a very open and inviting opportunity, because what we have done over the last couple of years is completely rethought the way that we do storage. Primarily, I don't even use the word storage very much anymore. Mostly because of the fact that people who are not storage people don't understand what we mean when we say storage. What we mean when we say storage, it has to do with everything with not just storing the data on a drive, but also protecting it, securing it, moving it, transporting it. What qualifies as data itself is often not well understood. So I talk about data. I talk about the need for data, the need to handle data, the need to move data, because that is ultimately what we are doing here at SNIA. And as we've moved forward and rethought the way that we're trying to approach the problem, sometimes the way to win hearts and minds is to redefine the question. So we're redefining the question of what storage is into including the idea that effectively without the data you really don't have much of anything to process or anything to network or anything to move, right? You don't have anything to apply in an application. So as we start to go through the growth of SNIA, we've been around for over 25 years, and we start to look at how we're supposed to approach these problems, we have a number of different elements that we know internally, inside of anybody who's done inside of SNIA knows that we do forums, we do initiatives, we do technical work, we do standards, we do education, we do plug fests, we do hackathons. Obviously, all these things are going on right now here at the conference, right? What is interesting is that a lot of the stuff that we do inside of SNIA has relevance outside of SNIA. And so we said, okay, well, if we're going to be doing this, if we're going to be doing these kinds of projects, we want to be able to work with these organizations, right? These other organizations. We want to work with IEEE, we want to work with UEC, we want to work with UCIE and JEDEC and all the different groups, OCP, all the different groups that are also working on something to do with data. Obviously, we've got some experience, they've got some experience, we can do this better together. So what we said was, well, if we're going to be doing this, let's say, for example, that I have a group that I want to work with OCP. Right, just as an example, or let's just use UEC as an example because I happen to know that one a little bit better in terms of practical projects. UEC is a full stack solution that goes up and down for AI and HPC networks. But that goes from the physical layer all the way up into the application layer. Well, obviously, AI, HPC requires data movement and data processing. Where it's moved, when it's moved, how it's moved are very important questions. Sounds kind of like what SNIA does, doesn't it? So what we want to do is we want to say, hey, we want to work with those people over at UEC. We want to work with those people over at UA Link. We want to work with those people at IEEE. All the people that are working on their own versions of data and do it very well, we can do it with you guys and make it better. Then we said, hey, if that works, if somebody wants to come in and work with our form factor group, SFF, or they want to work with our security group, or if they want to work with our cloud data object group, or something along those lines, we're actually quite difficult to work with. We got to fix that. So what we said is like, you know what? Let's make it easy, right? Let's just make it easy. You come inside of SNIA, you don't have to worry about which group you have to pay for. You just come in and you're part of SNIA. If you're part of the security group, you can participate in the form factors. You can participate in the cloud. You just are part of SNIA. So there's no extra hurdles to go through. We're very proud of this. Now, for those of you who happen to be involved in the budgeting and billing and that sort of stuff, we can talk about things specifically for your company, I do recommend, if you want to find out more information, that you go to SNIA.org podcast, where yesterday we published a podcast where I was talking to our host, Eric Wright, about what this means, what we're trying to do, how we're trying to make it easy to participate in and out of SNIA, work with other organizations as well as work with organizations inside. We're very happy and proud about this change. It's a drastic change. It's the first time in 25 years we've actually taken this approach. And we're very excited about it and encourage everybody to find out more, because it makes it very easy to work with inside of SNIA for all the things that we've been promoting with regards to data, without the hard lines between the honeycombs. So today we're going to have this is our agenda at a glance. And I'd like you to keep in mind as you go through it, if you find it so interesting to do so, about how all of these different pieces of the puzzle work together. Because that's ultimately what we're trying to do. We're trying to say, hey, look, everything is related to everything else. That's why we chose the honeycomb approach to this thing, because everything is connected to everything else. Your security is related to your infrastructure, which is related to your data movement, which is related to the storage and the long term and the archiving and that memory pyramid of latency budgets. All of it's related. And so whether we're talking about the practical elements of the interoperability lab, or we're talking about the education that comes from the keynote presentations, or the technical aspects of the breakout sessions, everything does have a relationship to everything else. And that's kind of where we want to be able to focus on it. But obviously, the key part about this is you, the people who are participating in this. Not just the speakers, but also those of you who take the information and go back and are able to grow with it. Because ultimately, that's where the value of SNIA and the work that we're doing really comes home to roost. It's in how these experts and the technology and the presentations are to influence the outcome of our problem-solving skills. Now, I would like to point out that we've got a networking reception this evening. We have, as part of the organization, it's entirely a volunteer-run organization. People spend a lot of their personal time doing things for the organization, and we'd like to recognize those people who have really gone above and beyond the call of duty. We even have a brand new award category today that I think that people really should pay attention to, specifically because of the fact that some people have spent their entire lifetimes working in storage and helping SNIA, and we are going to recognize for the first time ever Lifetime Achievement Awards. And so it's very critical for those of us who have been in the business for a while. We know who has really moved the needle, right? We know that, but not everybody who comes into the organizations or into the industry is aware that we are standing on the shoulders of giants. So we're going to have the opportunity to recognize those giants today. So I highly recommend that if you are able to make it to the reception tonight, that you do so. And then we have the Birds of a Feather sessions, which are sort of they're effective presentations on technical content, but they're a little bit more irreverent, a little bit more casual, a little bit more informal, and a lot more heckling. So I do recommend that you try to attend those, because they are quite a lot of fun. So one of the things that we've got going on here is that practical element that we've been referring to. We've got the SMB Interoperability Lab, where vendors are bringing their implementations of SMB to test and coordinate and work together. These kinds of interoperability labs are critical for the industry success, right? Everybody knows when things don't work. This is what makes them work. So these kinds of interoperability labs are the types of things that we're going to be looking at doing even more over the upcoming years. But this time we're going to be also looking at how we're going to make it work with other organizations as well. So it's all about being able to have a nice, tight ecosystem in the industry. And we're looking forward to leading that charge. We also have the Cloud Object Storage Plugfest, where we've got a lot of heavy hitters coming in to be able to organize and coordinate with these types of technologies. The idea here is that sometimes you just need to be able to have a good confidential environment that allows you to be able to test things out in a safe place, right? No coloring books here. We're just talking about being able to have the ability to do some pretty fine, bleeding edge type of interoperability testing. We've got excellent keynote speakers this year. Well, we have them pretty much every year. But I'd like to point out that we are very happy about the fact that we can encourage several people. In fact, there's quite a few people here in the room today who've done keynote speeches in the past. And thank you for coming back, even though you're not speaking. That's very nice of you. But it also underscores the fact that the influence that we're being able to promote as well as engender inside of the industry is pretty palpable. The topics of conversation that we have on our keynotes, you probably wouldn't have even imagined having them just 3 or 4 years ago, right? We've got an incredible breadth of talent in our industry. I was recently informed that we've got not 1, not 2, but 5 Linux maintainers here presenting at SDC as opposed to going to the Linux Plumbers Conference in Vienna this year. So thank you very much for prioritizing SDC over the Plumbers Conference. But I wanted to really reiterate the fact that all of these experts, not just inside of the keynotes, but also inside the presentations and in the rooms themselves, have something to contribute here. And Scott's going to go through each of the different presentations in greater detail. But I know for a fact that I've heard in the hallway track that a lot of people are looking forward to hearing more about these particular topics. The birds of a feather this evening are going to be talking about hard drive gaps and building AI. I mean, personally, that's something that's quite interesting to the work that I've been doing. Cloud object storage is a huge topic, particularly as we start to get into some of the practicalities when it comes to these types of workloads. And then afterwards, we've got 2 additional birds of a feather about NFS, SMB, and S3 work in harmony. I find that to be a relatively interesting topic, where you got file and object and the incompatibilities that we experience in practice with that. And then a topic near and dear to my heart, SDXI. We're going to be running, Shyam's going to be running that, I assume? Yep, okay. So for those of you who don't know what SDXI is, it's a software-based data mover that allows you to, I don't want to spoil it, but effectively, it is a very, very cool technology. It is the ability to move data from one memory location to another memory location using common APIs into the hardware, which has profound implications for highly abstracted environments, where you can cut through all that virtualization and go straight into use the hardware to do memory movement, zeroing out data, even eventually doing data transformations in the process with a one-step effect. It's very, very cool. If you're not familiar with SDXI, you'll hear a lot more about it in the upcoming year. Want to have profound thank you for all of our sponsors for SDC. Truly, we could not be able to put this on without you. As you know, prices have been going up, costs have been going up, and without the help of our sponsors, we just really wouldn't be able to provide this service to all of you. So thank you very much to all of our sponsors. Thank you so much. It's a huge plus, and this goes for the industry associations that are joining us as well. You can see them over on the bottom here. All of these organizations, we don't just have sponsorship programs with them, but we also work very closely with a lot of them on education. We work with them on technical, and that's going to improve and increase over the next couple of years. As we start to really promote that integration with both inside and outside of the organization, we're going to see the strengthening of the solutions have a lot more consistency across the board. And we're not going to be able to do that alone, and we're not going to even try to do that. We're going to be working with other organizations and other member companies to be able to solve those problems. So I would like to thank you very much and hope you have a very great SDC. I'd like to also introduce you to our chair of our Communications Steering Committee and also fellow board member, Scott Shadley, who's going to be doing the proper introductions for our keynotes.